morning routine, and the first thing that we're going to discuss in regard to really having like a better morning is the issue of energy. And I think this really kind of sums up the situation in many cases. The biggest difference between people who get what they want and people who don't is energy. So feeling totally burnt out at the end of the day and kind of going through different struggles, trying to do different things, a lot of times it always comes down to energy. So I want to deliver on the first thing that you saw when you signed up for this class and show you something to get more energized and reduce stress all at the same time. It's something I practice every morning, and it's called victory breathing. So we're going to do a quick exercise, and I'll show you the formation that you're going to take, but it's really simple. You can do it seated or you can do it standing, totally up to you. And I'll tell you the science behind it as we're doing it, and I'm going to time it. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to stand with your hands like this. Ready? Go. Okay, so now there's really cool science behind these different poses. Amy Cuddy, a Harvard researcher, discovered that if you hold different power poses for a certain amount of time, it reduces stress and raises confidence, like immediately. So the next pose is here. So go ahead and put your hands behind your head. Perfect. So what they learned is that they put all of these people in the study through this test, and they had them take different power poses. And there's a few. We'll do 3 of them today, but there's also more. So the people in this study took these different poses for 2 minutes before a really stressful interview. Across the board, every single person who practiced these poses before the stressful interview did way better and had so much more confidence than everyone else. Okay, now go like this. Awesome, I was doing so good. Okay. So what's really cool is that the power poses that we take are really important, and this is kind of a fun, like, superwoman pose that you see. But what they learned through the study, which is something that we probably have thought of, they proved that our body language affects the way we perceive ourselves as well as the way other people perceive us. So that's really huge, and something I especially noticed in my own life and being in different boardrooms and different meetings. Sometimes you come into a room and you take up as little space as possible and you fold up, and I would cross my legs and I would go like this, and I would try to be as unobtrusive as possible sitting at the conference table, which is so crazy. And I know a lot of times this can be a bigger issue, for women in different situations too. And your body language says so much, which is really cool and interesting. Okay, you can drop your hands. Good job. You did your power posing for the day. So what's cool is that you don't have to sporadically experience this lift in confidence and rely on one set of practices to kind of let your productivity and your energy and your confidence hinge on. There's a set series of things you can do, and that's what I teach in my 4-week workshop, Victory Rituals. So we're going to talk about as much as we can today, as much as we can fit in. And one of the things you can do is really just take a moment in the morning and set yourself up in a positive way. And you can pick one of these poses, and there's more too that you can do. But the whole idea is that you're taking up a lot of space and really just kind of owning that for yourself. And so these practices that I talk about are the combination of different things I've learned from yoga and Eastern healing practices and modern productivity hacks and the research from the Harvard study. So I'm really passionate about it. I think it's really interesting. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to answer them right away, or we can chat at the end. Oops. So the research is really interesting, and it's legit. It works. It's not just you kind of flailing around. So yeah. So does anyone feel like this when they wake up?
How did you get my picture? I
know. Well, I don't have the release. Hopefully it's okay.
It is.
So many of us feel exhausted and overworked, and we're over-caffeinated that kind of amazing that we're able to get anything done during the day. Some interesting stats, 83% of us are relying on coffee to get through our day, and 1 out of 3 adults has a medical issue with being overweight. And 75% are living under the stress of being paycheck to paycheck. So that's a heavy load to carry. So when you are thinking about that in your own life, and then with in your experiences with other people, it kind of it sheds some light on the situation that you're dealing with, considering the stress each person's walking around with, and kind of the IV of coffee that most people are requiring. So a lot of us feel like this by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's pretty typical. So the first thing that you really want to start with, and this might seem counterintuitive, but this was kind of a big eye-opener for me the first time I really practiced it and learned about it. The first step to hacking your morning routine is to really identify the reason you're trying to hack your morning routine and what that goal is. So that's great, but you also need to have a plan, of course. I love this stat, and actually Warren Buffett and Bill Gates both gave the same answer when they were asked the most important word in their life, and it was focus. So 80% of the wealthiest Americans focus on one big goal. So that's the first thing that we're going to talk about today. Now, Victory Rituals starts with a focus on your victory, and that very much has to do with your big picture. And then just a quick background where this all kind of got started. I was working in New York for a big agency, Omnicom Portnovelli, as an executive, and I had a great morning routine, and then I went from the agency, my old office at World Trade Center. So then I went from the agency to my dream job at L'Oreal as a global director of social media, and immediately I lost my morning routine. I threw myself into the work and sacrificed my morning routine because I thought that was the right thing to do because I was so busy. And I exchanged my morning yoga practices and my mind and body practice for, a really urgent cab ride uptown to the Fifth Avenue office. It's crazy stressful. And I just abandoned, my lonely yoga mat and the positive things that I was doing because it felt indulgent and like, who has time to do this? So I learned that you really rely on that launch pad for your day. So to connect your daily routine to your real priorities, the first thing that you want to do is focus on your victory. And then we're going to talk about mise en place, which I'll explain, connection, and then things that you can actually do in the morning to really get your day started better. So the first thing you want to think about is that one really exciting thing that you can do this year that will make a difference for you. Now, I totally understand having dozens of goals and things that I want to do, and you have health-related goals and you have corporate goals and all these different things. So if there's one thing that we can learn from our own lives and from all of these people that I've mentioned, is just to choose a focus. And that doesn't mean that you have to let go of all this other stuff, but take a second, and if you can, write it down. Take a second to think about what would make the biggest impact for you if you could say at the end of 2015 you completed it. So just take a second and think about it. What's something like really exciting that really you would feel so proud if at the end of the year, December, at the New Year's parties, you were like, yeah, I did this. It was awesome. And if you're like, well, I can't think of one thing, that's okay. Honor your thoughts, write all this stuff down, and then go back and say, okay, well, what would be the first thing that I would want to do? So I'll give you a second, just think about it. reason why I start with this exercise is because you want to have that image in your mind of what that victory looks like, because that's what makes people get out of bed in the morning. It's not the alarm clock, it's not like all of these gadgets, and I think gadgets are great, and there's some tactical things that I'll share later that you can do, but the number one thing is you have to set a foundation with this vision and something that gets you really excited. So if you can't think of something right now, take your time, maybe it'll come to you in the next couple days. And another thing that you can use to get yourself there is asking yourself, like, what would you do if money was no object? So that's another route to get yourself to that answer. Okay, so the next one is mise en place. So a lot of what I teach is pulled from all these different industries and cultures, and unless you're a professional chef, you've probably never heard of mise en place. It actually means everything in its place. And this is a religion of chefs. So this is the phase where the chef prepares for the meal. Have you ever been to a really busy restaurant and you wonder how they are possibly managing feeding 200 people at lunchtime? So it goes back to mise en place. So they have a whole system and process for organizing everything. And the truth is, everyone benefits from a daily mise en place. So what does that look like for your goals in this process? So the first thing, and I live by all of this that I'm telling you, Jason can tell you. So the first thing that I do is I have a Sunday agenda meeting. So sitting down and actually having an agenda meeting with yourself. So sitting down and really making it a priority. And just like throwing down on paper or digitally, whatever works for you. Sometimes I like the physical act of writing, and there's a lot of research that shows there's a deeper connection with writing than transcribing kind of mindlessly. So do what works best for you. And just get everything down on paper and get your thoughts organized. And if you're concerned about something, honor your thoughts and just get it out onto the page. So then you want to distribute all of these things to your calendar. So a lot of times we get caught up, we're trying to be more productive, so we make this big list, this big to-do list, and then we don't really put it into action. It doesn't go on our calendar, so then we think, well, there's 20 things I need to do here, and if I don't get these done, I am not successful. And it's not that simple. We don't oftentimes realize how long projects take. And until they become real on the calendar, then they're just kind of these ideas. So the next step, and I do this also, is to set a daily trifecta. So you have your big list, and you start with that once a week. Sunday is what I recommend. And on Sunday, you distribute out what you need to do, but things evolve and schedules change. So then each evening, I do a daily trifecta. So you want to identify what are the 3 things that are going to make the biggest impact to get done tomorrow.